Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschata Desidharane. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare. So Hare Krishna, wish you all a very, very happy Dwadasi and happy upcoming Bhadra Purnima. So today I thought I will just narrate my story in general, my journey in Srimad-Bhagavatam. It is definitely not a very, very exemplary one, but I had, I believe I overcame one hurdle in taking surrender to Srimad-Bhagavatam, that I'll share that, and hopefully that can be some form of inspiration. But I do have a lot more bigger leaps to take about Srimad-Bhagavatam, right? So I'll just go in the sequence of the question format about that was presented. I think that definitely makes my life very easy to narrate my story about Srimad-Bhagavatam and how I like to relish Srimad-Bhagavatam. So the first one is, what is your best moment with Srimad-Bhagavatam? So I came to Krishna consciousness in, I think around 2003 or 2004. Somehow over the years, I was never a book reader, in the sense that, all my childhood and whatnot, it was just more listening, to classes, even in school, right? I didn't like to read much unless there is an exam. I read for the exam. Otherwise, I like to listen to classes. And most of I like to ask tons of questions, right? Whenever I'm in a class, I just, I like to ask questions and inquire about things. So I never had, I'll say I started struggling in the sense that to open the book and read Bhagavatam, because it's from capability perspective, it was a big struggle, because for me to read and follow the sequence and whatnot, right? I heard a lot about the importance of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Theoretically, I understood it, but never took a deep dive. I always relished Bhagavad Gita a lot for some reason. It was my favorite book, Bhagavad Gita. I didn't feel any difficulty with Bhagavad Gita at all. Partly because I believe, I started with Bhakti Shastri course, and there was exams and whatnot very early. Even before I started my 16 rounds, I was in the Bhagavad Gita class. I did the Bhakti Shastri for Bhagavad Gita. That really helped me. So getting into Bhagavatam was extremely difficult, mainly because, over years, I tried to understand, why am I facing such difficulty? What I felt was, my mind works more like an engineer. That's how I was tuned from an education perspective. Unless there is some logical sequence, it would never make sense to me, right? I would strive to read, understand. A lot of times it felt repetitive. It felt the same message was being repeated again and again. And I could not connect between verse and verse and verse. Okay, how is the sequence going? Where is this going? I always struggled with it. And I'll say pretty much a decade passed away like that. While I definitely understood the importance of Bhagavatam, I really struggled with it. Until about maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I came across Bhagavad Subodhini. It really opened the doors to Srimad-Bhagavatam for me in particular. The way Bhagavad Subodhini gave me a sequential, it gave me context to like an overview of Bhagavatam. For example, every chapter has an overview. It says, okay, this is where Vidura is asking a question, and this is the reason why Vidura is asking the question. And this is how Maitreya Muni is responding to these questions. And then how it goes into, this is going into another conversation between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadeva Goswami, right? When Bhagavad Subodhini came out, it really, I felt really like Krishna opened the doors to Srimad Bhagavatam for me. That's how I felt. So I'll say that was my best moment in Srimad Bhagavatam. The second best moment in Srimad Bhagavatam is it really opened my eyes to Krishna consciousness, or Gaudiya Vaishnavism, or even Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This one is, while I was practicing Krishna consciousness, while I understood the incarnation of Chaitanya, or the manifestation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this material world, to give out love of Godhead, while I understood the mood of Srila Prabhupada in creating this movement, I always struggled with understanding the other, think of it like a buffet, right? If somebody is getting into spirituality, there are so many options out in this world, right? There are many, many options. And then how are we different from it, and how are we similar to that, right? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Achintya Bheda Veda Tattva, simultaneously one and simultaneously different too, right? So the part that really opened my eyes is, while we are simultaneously one, approaching some higher power, superior power, the part that really opened my eyes is, how are we different? And different in the sense that, one may feel I'm better or whatnot. More than feeling I'm better, it's not about being better. It's more about the Siddhanta. So I shared with some people over the weekend this really opened my eyes, actually through not our Sampradaya, but somebody else answering this question in a different Sampradaya, from Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. So in Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, there's a prominent acharya called Chimijiyar Swami, and somebody asked a question to him. They asked the question around, we have ISKCON, which is a very, very prominent organization, very successful organization, and we have our Sri Vaishnavism, which has, Sri Vaishnavism, it's been there for a long time, right? How do we understand the differences between Sri Vaishnavism and, in one sense, Gaudiya Vaishnavism, right? The way Chimijiyar Swami answered this question, he wasn't saying we are better than them. He wasn't saying our Siddhanta is better than their Siddhanta. The way he answered that question really struck a chord with me, I'll say. What he said is, every Sampradaya has a Praman. Praman means you can think as the root or the bija, just like there may be a big banyan tree. We heard this example, but that banyan tree comes from one small seed. That is the origin. So our Sampradaya, and that Praman means, in one sense, you can say the law book, right? If there's a case happening in the Supreme Court and there's a big debate happening, what they do is they refer to a law book. And then when you look at the law book, it establishes authority to it. So in this case, the way he explained is, for Gaudiya Vaishnavism, the Siddhanta or the Praman is Srimad-Bhagavatam. And for Sri Vaishnavism, the Siddhanta or Praman is, give me a second. Okay, I lost my train of thought. I'll tell you what, Vishnu Puran. Yes. When I heard this answer, it made 100% sense to me, and all my confusion got away. And more importantly, my mentality to compare and my mentality to feel I am better or I'm following something better, all that got away from me. Sometimes we hear, sometimes we try to imitate Srila Prabhupada, right? When Srila Prabhupada was establishing the movement, he was trying to he was trying to establish this Praman in a certain mood. He was, as an Acharya, he was trying to establish the superiority of Srimad Bhagavatam. And sometimes we tend to, imitate in his footsteps. We are better because we can explain Rasa Tattva, or we can say the conjugal loving relationship is much greater when compared to other forms of worship in mood of love versus in mood of awe and reverence. But when our faith and our understanding of what we are following is based on this bija, this one small bija of our Pramani Srimad Bhagavatam, and according to Srimad Bhagavatam, and this whole thing is addressed in just the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. The whole thing is established, by Vyasadeva in the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. He says how this Purana is Amala Purana. Amala in the sense that you will see all these characters, and again, we've heard this time and again from day one. I'll say the day one you stepped into a Bhakta Riksha, the day you stepped into the ISKCON temple, the day you heard your first Bhagavatam class, you heard this from day and again, about how the Siddhanta is established in the first chapter. But the real question is, while we understand theoretically, has it digested in our heart? Where it says Bhagavatam, because when you look at Bhagavatam, right, you will see all these characters, may it be the Pandavas, may it be like the different Munis and Rishis, a lot of these characters, they exist in the other Puranas. They exist in the other literatures like Mahabharata, right, Ramayana, and many others. The difference, when you see, for example, if you have a dilemma, right, and then if you refer to the life of, let us say, Yudhishthira Maharaj, you can take inspiration from Yudhishthira Maharaj, maybe from Mahabharata or even from Srimad Bhagavatam. And then sometimes confusion can arise where how Yudhishthira Maharaj behaved, the way this particular scripture portrays how Yudhishthira Maharaj behaved in Mahabharata versus how this particular Yudhishthira Maharaj, is portrayed in Srimad Bhagavatam. There is a huge difference. I'll say there's a huge subtle difference that you will see. And that subtle difference is Veda Vyas completely eliminates dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. When other scriptures, the same characters or the same personalities are glorified or their pastimes are narrated, you will see that dharma, artha, kama, moksha. But the same personalities, when you see in Bhagavatam, that our dharma, artha, kama, moksha is no longer present. It's a very, very subtle difference, and a lot of times we kind of mix up because we heard from a certain Purana and whatnot. So I think I took a diversion, but what I'm trying to say here is, as long as we are able to see Bhagavatam, because even when we are reading Bhagavatam, we can put the lens of dharma, artha, kama, moksha, and especially dharma comes because dharma is kind of in the mode of goodness. It comes very close to pure love of Godhead. Meaning Suddha Sattva and Vishuddha Sattva, right? So it comes very close to it. The reason why I tell this is, an interesting conversation happened. I shared again with some of our devotees. His Holiness Rampad Maharaj walked us through a series of lectures through Radhastami, right? And how the relationship between Radha and Krishna is the ultimate and the topmost relationship, right? Right after the whole series, one of our children, actually not younger one, the children that went to college, posed a question, confidentially. He said, how can, I won't go deep into this, but again, how can we understand the relationship between Radha and Krishna when Srimati Radharani is already married to somebody else? It is a very valid and a genuine question. And a lot of times it can be very confusing and bewildering. Like Maharaj said, right? You don't have to take any life lessons from there when he was answering Amara Mataji's question, right? But a lot of times we look even at scripture through the lens of dharma. For example, one may, when somebody is looking at it from a dharmic perspective, they may see that there is something wrong happening in this particular pastimes. So one has to grow beyond dharma to the level of pure love of Godhead to understand a lot of these pastimes. So this one thing can be answered by Srimad-Bhagavatam as long as we are able to take our lens of dharma and speak about kama, moksha, right? A lot of times we are, I was just listening to the first, one of the questions here is, what is your favorite verses and favorite purport? One of my favorite purports is the first purport, Canto 1, Chapter 1, verse number 1. That is the first purport that I really love. And I was just, I like to listen through the app called BVL, Bhaktivedanta Library. For me, than reading, also hearing is more easy. So BVL kind of narrates the whole Bhagavatam with purports and verses and everything. And I was just listening to it, and Srila Prabhupada clearly says, right? He nicely says, he gives example how when people come to Krishna, or even come to the temple to worship, they're coming with the intention of kama and moksha. And when that kama and moksha are satisfied, right? Especially because in modern age, medicine has improved, quality of life has improved, a lot of things have improved. So now people are giving up religiosity mainly because there is no still, they don't see a lot, for example, in the past, people used to die right after birth. That mortality rate was much higher. Now it is much lower because of advancement in medicine and whatnot. So people just feel that, okay, through science, through medicine, through many aspects, we can, we don't need religiosity at all. And that is the reason all the temples, all the churches, mosques are becoming empty. They're becoming empty buildings. And then Srila Prabhupada goes on to talk about how it is much beyond dharma, artha, kama, moksha. It is to establish our relationship with Krishna. So that is my favorite purport. My favorite verse as a sadhaka, I'll say, is one of the verses by Brahmaji. He goes, he explains, because as a sadhaka, we face a lot of struggles in our life. And a lot of times we get a doubt too, I'm unable to perform bhakti to the level, or to the capacity that I should be executing. Right. The verse that I love is Tattenukampam Susamikshamanam Vinjana Evatmayat Kridipakam. That verse goes on to say, in one's life, we may face a lot of difficulties. But one has to tolerate those difficulties. And if one is able to tolerate those difficulties and continue to execute their devotional service to whatever capacity, right? One may not have the scholarly or education to thoroughly understand Srimad-Bhagavatam. They may just listen to lectures, right? Or one may not have the quality or ability to perform deity worship. So we have many limitations, based on, Krishna's mercy, whichever body we got, whatever intelligence was given to us, we can perform certain activities of bhakti, and so we cannot perform certain activities of bhakti. It becomes a challenge. But, no matter what the difficulties, and even material difficulties, right? We may have good karma, which gives us, a nice facility or a nice environment to perform bhakti, and somebody may not have a good karma, that they're working like 2 jobs or 3 jobs, and they're unable to do bhakti to the level that they want to do, irrespective of what your situation is. Gunjana evatma yatkrit vipakam, he says, continue to perform your devotional service to whatever capacity. And then he gives a bold statement, a really, really bold statement. And Srila Prabhupada gives a very nice purport to that, right? I'll go to the example that Srila Prabhupada gives. Srila Prabhupada is very good at giving metaphors, and that metaphor actually really relates to me. The metaphor he gives is, he says, let us say there is a very, very rich man, and he has a son. All the son has to do, let us say if the son decides, no, I hate my father, I'm going to leave my house, and he goes out to acquire the wealth, he has to work extremely hard. But if the child tolerates some inconveniences, his father may say, do that, do this, do this. Usually we see children, right? An example is, when children learn to ride the car, they want to ride the car. Like, I want to go out on the car. I want to go out on the car. I want to ride on my own. Like, you can see different kinds of things that children do, that they want to become very independent, right? So similarly, the example that Srila Prabhupada gives is, all the thing that this child has to do is stay alive. If he just stays alive, it's only a matter of time when he inherits, let us say his father earned several multi-million dollars. It's only a matter of time when this particular child inherits all this wealth. But if he quits and leaves the house, he may not get this wealth. So similarly, Srila Prabhupada says, and actually Srila Prabhupada gives this metaphor, and he tells, he quotes Brahmaji in Tatyanukampa. He says, Brahma says, just tolerate the difficulty and continue to stay in bhakti, and liberation, in the one sense, when it is not just liberation from this material world, it is Krishna Prema, which is your birthright, which is your inheritance. You will definitely get that inheritance. All you have to do is stay alive in bhakti. Just keep that candle. It may be a big flame for someone. It may be just a small candle for someone. Just keep it alive, and then it becomes your inheritance. So this is my favorite verse from Srimad-Bhagavatam. I struggle in keeping my candle light alive, lit up. But I have that hope, right? Somehow or the other, we'll get that. What motivates you to read Srimad-Bhagavatam? Yeah, I think I'll take one step back again. When the doors to Srimad-Bhagavatam opened up to me, and in the past I never understood, because when we come to Krishna consciousness, we hear this particular aspect, right? We hear saying that when you have to read Srimad-Bhagavatam from Canto 1, Canto 2, Canto 3, and then go all the way up to Canto 10 in order to understand the pastimes of Krishna. But a lot of times, just being in the association of devotees, we get to hear a lot of Krishna's pastimes way ahead before we have gone through these cantos, right? So my realization came about is about a year and a half ago, we decided to do Srimad-Bhagavatam in our Sunday school. What we said was, we will go on a fast pace because children are not patient to do verse by verse. So we said we'll go in a fast pace and see the overview of Srimad-Bhagavatam from every chapter and every canto. So when we came to Canto 2, I think it really opened up my heart when we came to Canto 2, because Canto 1 is more like it is setting up the context to Srimad-Bhagavatam. It establishes the parampara, it establishes, how Bhagavatam came into existence and whatnot. When it came to Canto 2, the first 3 chapters, I think as of now, my favorite chapters are the first 3 chapters of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Because in one sense, I now understand why it is called the lotus feet of Krishna. Why Canto 1, Canto 2 called the lotus feet of Krishna. And it kind of opened up my eyes. Because it starts from ground, the basic level, just like a kindergartner, it starts from, 1, 2, 3, or A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then it nicely establishes, I think, as I went through Canto 2 and we reached Canto 3, it really establishes the supremacy of Krishna. A lot of times for us, it's kind of, we accept easily, right? We accept saying that, yes, Krishna is a Supreme Personality of Godhead. But when you really dive into Canto 1, it starts with the material creation itself. How this creation started from, from not even from Brahma, right? From the very thought of Krishna, how this material universe comes into manifestation. And when you're able to imagine, a lot of times we say, the three Vishnus, right? Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, Karanodakshaya Vishnu. We kind of go very fast in that, but when you are able to contemplate how massive this universe is and how Krishna, like Karanodakshaya Vishnu is expanding and whatnot, unless we understand the magnanimity of these three Vishnus, I'll put it, it's my realization. We understand the magnanimity of these three Vishnus, we will not be able to understand the magnanimity of Krishna, because they are Amsa of Krishna. So for me, it was more like a reverse understanding. I need to understand how magnanimous this material creation is and how magnanimous the three Vishnus are. And then when you go backwards, how magnanimous Balram is, and then how magnanimous Krishna is. When we understand that magnanimity of Krishna, now fast forward to 10th canto, right? We will not doubt Krishna's intentions when he's performing pastimes with Radharani. So that was, something I was trying to actually share with this particular kid. How magnanimous Krishna is, and when we understand the magnanimity of Krishna, we will not doubt anything Krishna does. So that was nice for me, right? When this particular doors opened in the first canto, when we were taking a look at, so that's something I'm still relishing, and I'm hoping that I can slowly go forward into the other cantos. Yes. What sacrifices of Srila Prabhupada connect to you? This is a great question. I know we're running out of time there, so and I already over time. I'll go quickly. I think what I really felt was when Arghis Malati Prabhu told what she told in a couple of days ago, right? When Srila Prabhupada said, everything that I want to tell you is already in Srimad-Bhagavatam Canto 1. I could understand, how Srila Prabhupada wrote the translation to whole of Srimad-Bhagavatam 1. And then that book got lost, completely lost. I could understand how disheartened Srila Prabhupada was. And then he had to rewrite the whole thing, and he put his whole heart again, right? It's in some way, it kind of relates to me, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, when he's writing Srimad Chaitanya Charitamrita, at one point he says, I'm an old man, I might die at any time. And he gives a summary of whole Chaitanya Charitamrita in one chapter. And then he continues to expand afterwards. So we can see how Srila Prabhupada felt that he needs to establish like this bija. This bija is very important to be established, and he puts everything in Canto 1. That kind of really opened my eyes to why we may be going ahead with Srimad Bhagavatam forward. I felt like a repetition of Canto 1 is going to be particularly important, and I told myself I should at least hear the audio of Canto 1 again and again. So my prayer to Srila Prabhupada is I am not doing hardly doing an effort on my side for the sacrifices he made to dive into his purports and his writings in Srimad Bhagavatam. I pray to him so that I can continue that. Favorite pastimes, I think as of now I will stick with Canto 1, Canto 2, Chapter 1 to 3, how these Vishnus establish the universe, and this is how it's helped me understand the magnanimity of Krishna. I'll stay with that one for now. And any other points in relation to Srimad Bhagavatam glorification? Yeah, I think this is the bija for us. For me, as a Gaudiya Vaishnava, as in the disciplic succession of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, my understanding of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the bija. My praman, I will say, is Srimad Bhagavatam. Now I'm ready to answer anybody, right? Anybody who comes and, I wouldn't say challenge me. If somebody's challenging, I may not go and debate them at all. If somebody is interested to know why, like even if it's from Christianity, Muslim, or anything, if somebody asks me, why do you believe that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? that's because Srimad-Bhagavatam established a such fact. I think that is my bija, and that is my my siddhanta and my praman for everything that I'm doing in my spiritual life. Okay, this is what I would like to add for today. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhuji, I just wanted to mention that wonderful glorification of Srila Prabhupada, Srimad Bhagavatam, and also Srila Prabhupada. So nice. There were a couple of points I wanted to, one question particularly when you said, we need to transcend dharma to understand our scriptures and the leelas of the Lord. My question is, so is dharma restricted to only this material world, or is dharma there even in the spiritual world?
My understanding, Prabhuji, is within the material world. It's called Purusharthas. Dharma, the Kama, Moksha, or the Purusharthas. They're seen as religiosity, right? In the spiritual world, it's all about Rasa Tattva. That's my understanding, or I could be wrong.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Please accept my humble obeisances. I really appreciated the elaboration on the initial part of establishing the Siddhanta and this how Bhagavatam is Amala Purana, especially when we see about this Dharma, that we can find that as how pure, how it is focused on the beyond this Dharma, the Kama Moksha. Thank you for sharing it, Prabhu.
No problem. Thank you. Yeah, actually, I had one point written down. In the rush, I didn't go. I want to share is what I heard is a lot of time is enthusiasm is contagious. And I think enthusiasm is contagious, and if you're not feeling enthusiastic, act enthusiastic. That's what I heard. All I want to say is, Prabhu, I want to express my gratitude to you, Vansidhari Prabhu. I know you don't like glorification, but from the deep of my heart, I'll say, whenever I get caught away with my services or my own, family life or whatnot, sometimes you come and say, Prabhu, how is your Bhagavatam reading going? And when I see your enthusiasm, I think I want to express my gratitude sincerely. I know you don't like a lot of glorification, but I've told you several times again, your enthusiasm is what got me in touch with Srimad-Bhagavatam. That big hurdle, along with Sri Bodhini and you, I think I'm able to at least touch the waters. I want to express my gratitude to you, Prabhuji, for that.
Sure, Prabhu. I will also share something.
Yes.
One thing right on top of my mind is I'm getting to understand anything we do, there is a pride associated in this world. Prabhupada says pauper is proud of penny. And then, he has seen it, when he was traveling on the train. And then I was noticing even we do devotional activity, there's a pride. And it was manifesting in the form of, why other people are not chanting, or I should tell this person to chant, like there is a pride associated. I really like Krishna conscious. I seek all the Vaishnava's blessings and protection. I really want Krishna consciousness. Somehow this birth is special to me. And the second part is, I picked it up when I was attending a leadership meeting in the very early years of Krishna consciousness. Rompad Maharaj shared this in that meeting, how devotees from, I think, India So the brahmacharis, so they were finding when they were taking their roles, they are not able to keep up with their Krishna consciousness. So then they were encouraged to, 1 second, Prabhu. So devotees were encouraged to take a month or 2 months break and absorb in Shastra. So then that's when I took the austerity of adding the Shastra, because it's not easy when you do services and adding Shastra, it's not easy. But that's when I took, and yeah, and it grew from there. So yeah, that even Gauranga Prabhu was telling it one time. The success GEV is Govardhanika villages all to the their absorption in the Bhagavatam, the glorification of the Bhagavatam. In those lines, he was explaining even the materialists have a lot of faith in the Bhagavatam, in getting success in their endeavors, what to speak for devotees like that. So, and as you are pointing now, the Govardhana village books, Bhagavad Subodhini, is really such a guidebook. Actually, it just gives a bird's eye view. Of course, I was following Unveiling His Lotus Feet. Unveiling His Lotus Feet also has its flavor. Gurujan Prabhu takes us through a journey, and this Subodhini books are really, really helpful, because this is a humongous scripture. Even for small books, they have these guidebooks, so it's very helpful. It's like a personal notes. So if anyone wants it, we have copies available. Of course, it's a little expensive. We could not get it any lesser price. It was like coming to $180, something like that, for all those books, because it was air-shipped and all that. So we have copies. If anyone wants it, they can check with Anusha Mataji, Kishore Prabhu Anusha Mataji. Yeah. But in any case, thank you for sharing your experiences, Prabhu. It is very enthusing and motivating.
No, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, there is a comment from Balram Prasad Prabhu in the chat. Amazing glorification, and I like the way you mentioned that without understanding the supremacy of Krishna, we cannot understand Krishna. Very nice realization. You're a true Vaishnava.
Okay, Prabhuji, I think we can end it here. It's a working day.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Okay, Prabhuji. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai.